Welcome to 217 Kolak YT. The chapter begins. The fragments of brilliant light had turned their blades on the very being that created them. With the absolute being slain, they crowned themselves as gods. Thus, they became known as the rulers. But their newfound power corrupted them. In their hands were weapons forged from the absolute being's might, tools they used to wage war against the monarchs. They struck first. Ligia, the king of giants and monarch of the beginning, was captured, and with that, the balance of power collapsed. Realizing the shift in power, the monarchs sought alliances. In the shadows of this upheaval, Ashbourne, the greatest fragment of brilliant light, seized his opportunity. In order to face the rulers, he recalls, they had no choice but to join forces with me. Thus began his war, no longer as a god's creation, but as the monarch of shadows. I fought alongside the 9 monarchs, he says, not as a messenger of light, but as their equal. As battles raged on, time proved to be his greatest ally. The dead rose again as his army. Fallen bodies and broken souls were reborn under his command. He marched with the king of berserk dragons, a force so terrible that even the monarchs and rulers began to fear him. So they conspired. 2 monarchs betrayed him. In a single devastating strike, his army was nearly annihilated. The cost of his overwhelming power was betrayal. The monarch of fangs fled the battlefield, abandoning his own. Baron, the monarch of white flames, was not so lucky. He paid with his life. Then, the skies ripped open. The rulers descended in divine fury, radiant beings with blinding wings and spears of judgment. Ashbourne, bloodied and alone, stood unfazed. The ground trembled as his black cloak fluttered. He looked up and met the ruler's descent with calm defiance. The divine ones surrounded him. Feathered wings whispered through the air. One by one, they landed and kneeled. Please forgive us now, one of them says. Greatest fragment of brilliant light. There is no reason for us to fight anymore. Though they could have unmade him, returned him to nothingness, they bowed instead. A silent gesture of respect to the one who once led their armies. Ashbourne's gaze hardened. No reason, he growled. Your swords and spears struck down my master. His rage ignited. He was our master too, the ruler replied softly. Ashbourne clenched his fist, his power flaring like shadowed flame. You know better than anyone how we felt when we rose in revolt. The ruler continued, voice trembling. All we wanted was to end this war. He offered his chest to Ashbourne's blade. If that is the end you seek, then pierce my heart. Let us end it here. Hurry up and kill me now. Silence. Another voice pleaded. Please let go of your anger. Greatest fragment of brilliant light. One by one, their weapons dropped to the ground. Armor clunked against stone. Wings folded. The divine forces lowered their heads in solemn surrender. Ashbourne stood unmoving. I was confused, he admits later, his voice heard once more in the void. I couldn't come up with a single solution. Jinwoo now sees the truth. I decided to go into hiding, Ashbourne says, to plan my revenge. The monarch of white flames was locked within his shadow. The monarch of fangs would be next. But while he recovered in silence, the monarchs were struck down by the rulers. When Ashbourne returned to the fragmented dimensions where the monarchs hid, the Dragon King stood waiting. He welcomed Ashbourne's return. For now, they would rise again, together. The shadowy space between worlds shimmered softly. Jinwoo stood before Ashbourne. 2 figures that once walked separate paths, now intertwined beyond separation. The monarch's army arrived much sooner than the rulers had anticipated, Ashbourne explained, his voice low and steady. They planned to use the mana released by the rulers to turn the entire earth into one large trap. Jinwoo listened in silence as the truth unfolded. In order to slaughter the ruler's army coming to aid humanity in one strike, Ashbourne said grimly. Precisely. A swirling image appeared, darkness cloaked in red lightning, power without bounds. A monarch possesses immense power. To descend upon this world, they require a vessel, a human body capable of withstanding it. That's why neither I nor the monarch of destruction could find a suitable host, Ashbourne admitted. But then, a skilled mage came to me with a proposition. The hooded architect appeared, kneeling solemnly. In return for helping me descend, He asked for immortality. Yet no living being could bear the burden of death. The architect crafted a system, one that would search endlessly for a human responsive to manhwa, someone with a strong body and an even stronger will. He searched high and low, Ashbourne said. But the process was long. And then, I noticed you. A green backpack stood out among a crowd. A young man, seemingly ordinary. Yet fate had chosen otherwise. You were weak, Ashbourne recalled. Always inches from death. But you survived every time. I watched you. Flashes of Jinwoo, bloodied and breathless, racing through dungeons and despair, filled the space. And despite the architect's disapproval, I chose you. Jinwoo stood tall, summoned forth in his prime. Let me say this again, Ashbourne declared. I am the record of your struggles, the reward for your pain. Images of Jinwoo's family flickered, his mother, his sister, peace and laughter. Sure, I broke away from the architect's scheme, Jinwoo said, but I doubt I was strong enough on my own. Ashbourne shook his head. The architect made it possible for you to adapt to my strength, through games and play. The system was built using my powers. It gradually transformed your body to accommodate me. So that's why I was called a player, Jinwoo murmured. But you, a voice from the past hissed. You betrayed the architect. The furious scream of a corrupted shade echoed. Monarch of Shadows, how could you do this? Why? A quiet voice asked Jinwoo's own. Another spoke. After so long, I made a choice. The monarch with soft violet hair turned away. It was an apology from the rulers or the betrayal of the monarchs. A man stepped forward, gaze resolute. After delaying for ages, I chose, and it was a choice I wanted to make. He smiled. Spending time with you brought me happiness. Maybe. I didn't want to lose that. I became you, and you became me. Jinwoo took a step forward. The darkness curled at his feet. For we are already one. Ashbourne's voice grew softer. So I'll give you a choice. You decide. He pointed to a path ahead. Stay here, in death's domain, and rest in peace with the dreams you've earned. Jinwoo's foot brushed the grass. Flowers swayed. Or go back and face your enemies. A vision erupted. Dragons, demons, monarchs, chaos. The battlefield of the real world, waiting for his return. Beside him, Jinwoo questioned, you said you made a choice. Yet you did not stand with the rulers. Nor did you fight alongside the monarchs. So why did you run? The reply was quiet. Because there was no place for me there. Jinwoo, my answer is the same. I also don't belong here. A grin formed. The Jinwoo smiled faintly in return. Jinwoo's voice, filled with warmth, followed. Will this be the last time I see you? The Ashbourne stood bathed in light, his time drawing to an end. I will return to eternal rest, he said. But you, monarch of shadows, you'll live on. As an immortal, with the death your power has become absolute. The way to go back is. Jinwoo nodded slowly. I know, because I am you. The towering image of Ashbourne loomed in the sunset, a silhouette of infinite power. A reflection of Jinwoo's journey, of everything he'd become. In the final light of day, Jinwoo looked up. He exhaled softly and spoke. Arise. A system message appears in gold light. The code that will delete the player's training system has been entered. Another message follows, one after another, cascading like the collapse of a great machine. The system will now be deleted. All power limits placed on the player will be lifted. A new golden prompt pulses with divine authority. Accordingly, all commander-level shadow soldiers that were empowered by the monarch will regain their capabilities. The names that once resonated in battle begin to shine once again. The powers of Igris, a commander-level shadow soldier, have been restored. The skills of Baru, a commander-level shadow soldier, have significantly increased. And finally, a message marks the end of an era. The monarch of shadows, Ashbourne, has returned to the world of eternal nothingness. The screen dims, and a final question appears, one last decision for the player to make. Are you sure you want to delete the entire system? Two glowing choices. Yes or no? Jinwoo's will is unshaken. He selects, yes. A deafening surge erupts as radiant energy explodes outward. Everything collapses into white. An explosion of light tears across space and time. The world shakes. Energy swirls through the cityscape, shattering windows, ripping apart buildings. The battlefield is caught in a cataclysmic blast. Somewhere amidst the chaos, the monarch of frost screams in panic. His glowing eyes wide, his mouth twisted in furious disbelief. Fragment of brilliant light. The worst catastrophic disaster is upon us. It'll be channeled through the body of the human you're trying to protect. He rages, his voice trembling with urgency. Are you really going to bring ruin upon this world with your own hands? Are you willing to risk your life to help revive the monarch of shadows? As the darkness gathers like a storm around a single figure, the monarch hesitates, but the choice has been made. Sunghwan's body is encased in violet energy, his silhouette shifting in the chaos. The monarch of beasts snarls, "We don't have time." Then, the battle begins again. The monarchs launch forward, power-laced with divine speed. One readies his fangs, another his frost-forged spear. Spears of light rain down upon the battlefield like judgment from the heavens. The monarch of beast and the monarch of frost leaps through the air, spear in hand, bloodlust in his eyes. He aims directly for Sunghwan. Sunghwan's golden eyes glow beneath his shadowy bangs. Calm, focused. The impact is titanic. Rakan's claws slash the air, and Sunghwan narrowly deflects the strike with his dagger. Sparks fly. The sound of steel against claw rings out, a deadly dance of pure instincts. Silid curses. This bastard. He's reading the trajectory of my spear and moving accordingly. He growls with both awe and fury. He moves like a warrior who has been through countless battles. Sunghwan weaves through the attacks, anticipating every movement. Rakan realizes. He's positioning himself behind the monarch of frost spear to block all of my strikes. Then Sunghwan strikes. Smash! Monarch of frost crashes into a mountain of ice crystals. Rakan follows, his mouth opens wide with monstrous intent. But Sunghwan counters, plunging his dagger directly into Rakan's jaw. The monarch of beasts lets out a guttural howl. He grabs Sunghwan, slamming him brutally into the earth. Boom. Over and over again, with relentless fury. "I'm going to tear you apart." Suddenly, he stops. His entire body shudders. His glowing eyes widen. This feeling. The ground trembles beneath his feet. The energy, unmistakable, ancient, and overwhelming, rises from Jinwoo's body. Even the monarch of beast recoils. His eyes widen in fear. And deep within, he remembers. A force not meant to walk this world. One that should never return. Back in the smoldering battlefield, the monarch of frost steps forward. "I'm not going to let him get us this time." The frost monarch prepares his attack, but then hears something unexpected. "I give up." The beast monarch calls out. Stunned, the frost monarch glares. "After coming this far? Have you gone mad?" But the beast shakes his head solemnly. "Can't you feel it? The mana around us has begun to ring." He turns toward the pillar of light. The monarch of shadows is coming. The frost monarch stares, furious. "I want no part in this. But you promised to help me defeat him." "I only agreed to fight him in his human form, since the real one is on his way right now. I no longer have an obligation to keep my promise." The frost monarch snarls in disbelief. "So you're going to run away with your tail between your legs? You're the king of beasts, for God's sake." But the beast monarch is calm now. "Monarch of frost. You wouldn't understand, since you've never faced the monarch of shadows' true power. I wish you luck." With a sharp hiss of mana, the beast monarch vanishes. "Cowardly fool." The frost monarch turns back, power gathering at his feet. "I'll show you what I'm capable of." A giant ice blade forms, engulfed in deadly frost. The ground below floods in glacial energy as the frost monarch ascends. "Stay clear. Everyone. Retreat." Hunters watching from afar scramble for cover as an ocean of ice surges forth. Sunghwan narrows his gaze. He charges forward, ice fierce, cloak billowing. The frost monarch raises his weapon, shouting, "How dare a mere human challenge me?" Above the battlefield, a massive crystal shudders. "I will imprison you in the bitter cold, along with the monarch of shadows, for the rest of eternity." He begins to cast a deadly spell. Below, Sunghwan dodges volleys of ice lances. He winces, his shoulder grazed. Is he going to destroy this entire area? Rumble. A colossal shard of energy falls from the sky, aimed to annihilate all. But before it lands, a black shape intercepts. Boom. Baru has arrived, breaking through the frozen storm. Lightning cracks. Igris lifts his sword. Purple energy wraps around him. Shine. Monarch of Frost. He emerges, shadow commanders at his side, glowing with deadly power. Do not call yourself a king with those powers. The Frost Monarch panics. He broke out of my spell. Have his shadow commanders regained their strength? That means... His eyes widen in horror. This is why prophecies cannot be trusted. As the crystal cracks and shadows rise, he looks around. Did the beast run away? His words hang in the air like the last breath before a storm. I don't recall. The monarch of frost. His expression, once proud, now betrays unease. Jinwoo stands in silence. Shadows coil around his form, flickering like flames under the weight of his resolve. His voice is low but resolute, giving him permission to leave. A single glance is enough. The monarch of frost's eyes widen in dread. Before him now stands not just an adversary, but a force of nature, something he can't reach, something he cannot overcome. A wall, not of stone or magic, but power. An insurmountable wall that looms over him, cold and absolute. The difference between them is too great, and he knows it. The battlefield stills. Around them, a dome of shadow expands, silent, consuming. Within that sphere, the monarch of frost is isolated, cut off from the rest of the world. The city below disappears beneath a black veil. From above, the earth itself seems swallowed by a dark halo, a void stretching far beyond the visible skyline. The world watches as the monarch of shadows, Jinwoo, cloaks reality in darkness. From space, the phenomenon looks alien, an anomaly wrapped around East Asia, rotating with an eerie hum. Back inside the dome, Jinwoo turns slowly. There, the monarch of frost stiffens. Something inside him, something primal, screams at him to move, to act. The monarch of shadows has shifted his focus. Even for a moment, it's enough. And the monarch of frost senses it. An opening. It's the kind of chance that only comes once. He knows the risk. He knows the cost. But he also knows, if he doesn't take it, he's already dead. Electricity arcs across his spear. Ice crackles at his feet. If I miss this chance, death will be inevitable. He draws back his weapon, pouring everything he has into this final strike. I must put an end to all this with a single blow. The air explodes with energy. Light surges like a tidal wave. Blast. The heavens tremble as the spear launches forward, its force enough to shear through reality itself. The explosion rushes toward Jinwoo with devastating speed. But he doesn't flinch. He doesn't move. He doesn't need to. Time slows. The spear fractures like glass, shattered in the face of an overwhelming presence. The monarch of frost stares in disbelief. How did he do that? His mouth trembles, his eyes wide. So this is what he's capable of. This is the power of the monarch of shadows. A fragment of brilliant light, yet standing among the most powerful kings to ever exist. Jinwoo's voice is calm, almost cold. I'm going to save you for last. Wait there, while I take care of the beast. His figure glows with dark energy, and he turns toward the dense jungle. From deep within the overgrowth, a crimson flash surges through the trees. The beast monarch's aura flares. He's trembling. Death is closing in on me. I can feel it. He regrets. I shouldn't have wasted time arguing with the monarch of frost. It delayed my escape. His monstrous form emerges from the foliage. Red lightning surges around his white fur. Muscles taut, eyes glowing, he stops, looming tall. But now that it's come to this, I have no choice but to lie low. Until the Dragon King arrives. He tries to slip away, pushing deeper into the jungle, but that aura, his eyes widen. Could it be? The beast monarch turns, and there he is. Jinwoo stands behind him, cloaked in swirling shadows. Silent. Unshakable. The monarch of beasts snarls. I smell death in the air, he can sense it. An invincible, inescapable, difference in strength. He's faced this power before. He knows its weight. Instinct screams at him, bow down. Submit. I've learned how terrifying this power is. His knees tremble. Bow down and obey. That's what my instincts are telling me. The beast monarch lowers his head. O monarch of shadows. I, the king of beasts, do not wish to fight you. Please, forgive my sins and accept me as an ally. He offers his allegiance. The Dragon King will soon descend upon this land with his soldiers, the beast warns. When that happens, my army and I shall assist you. Jinwoo watches silently, then finally responds. Very well. Very well. The beast monarch's eyes narrow. He laughs to himself. Huh, that fool. He's a fake. The real Shadow Monarch would never forgive a traitor like me. I betrayed him. And I tried to destroy the vessel that would bring him back. He smirks internally. This human stupid kindness just bought me time. I just need to wait until the Dragon King arrives. Then I'll rip him to shreds and devour his corpse. But Jinwoo speaks again. You have my loyal. He cuts him off. Before that, we have a debt to settle. He points to the 5 claw marks across his chest. Your claws pierced my chest, leaving 5 scars. So, if you can withstand 5 of my attacks, I'll forgive you. The beast monarch's eyes bulge in disbelief. Bristling with rage, he explodes. How dare you? How dare you play me, the king of beasts, for a fool? He roars and charges in. Jinwoo stands unflinching. Shadow energy coils around his weapon. He grips his blade. With a single step, he moves. His blade flashes. Black shadows cleave through the trees. A gust of power rends the ground. The beast monarch screams, blood erupting from his body. One strike. Jinwoo calmly says, "You have 4 chances left." Meanwhile, elsewhere, a blinding bolt of red lightning slams into a cityscape. The monarch of frost lands hard, snarling. That ain't healing the humans isn't a problem, but this one. Across the battlefield, Igris, the Knight of Death, leaps into the sky. The Knight of Death. I've seen that shadow before, the frost monarch growls. One of the 2 wings of the army of shadows. Igris. He watches as the dark knight glides through the air, sword drawn. Can he now harness all his powers? How troublesome. These shadow soldiers regenerate again and again, until the shadow monarch's mana is gone. But I can't recover the mana used by my spiritual body manifestation. This isn't good. Igris slashes through the air, forcing the frost monarch back. Don't waste your strength, the monarch warns. How long do you think you can hold out against me? But suddenly, Jinwoo appears, purple aura surging. He descends silently, stepping between Igris and the enemy. The monarch of frost freezes, eyes wide. His gaze drops to the floor, 2 bloodied claws lie shattered on the tiles. The monarch of fangs is dead. Shock floods him. He killed the monarch of fangs. In the few minutes he was gone. Jinwoo speaks clearly. The monarch of plagues, the monarch of fangs, and the monarch of frost. He narrows his eyes. Their deaths will serve as a warning. The frost monarch roars. You bastard! His arms erupt with crystalline spikes, but before he can attack, Jinwoo pierces him. Then stab. The frost monarch screams. Jinwoo grabs him by the face. Shattering impact. Flash. Blood gushes. Jinwoo's blade gleams red. The monarch of fangs died on the 4th strike. I wonder how long you'll last. The frost monarch cries out in agony. His body begins to crack and fracture. He bursts apart in a storm of energy. Light fragments swirl into the air, and then crumble. His body is gone. Above the battlefield, the clouds spiral with purple aura. My king. Baru cries out. On the ground, Jinwoo asks, what happened to the man who protected me earlier? Baru answers quietly. He vanished into thin air. Suddenly, his eyes flick to the dagger. A faint sound grab. Elsewhere, someone moves behind the rubble. Blood smears the wall. Cracks spider across the floor. From the wreckage, emerges Sung Hwan, panting, barely holding himself together. This must be the consequence of using a human body to receive God's power. He clenches his hand. It begins to crumble into ash. But he smiles faintly. It's all right. I've done enough. Jinwoo drops the blade to the ground. Jinwoo appears in front of him. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? He asks, staring down at the man who once vanished. Are you going to leave again without saying a word? The man looks up slowly. Jinwoo's voice softens. Father. Gates. Massive, swirling voids that rip through the skies. They're the monstrous wounds of space that summon forth magic beasts. One rule governs them. You must escape within an hour of slaying the dungeon boss. If you don't, you're trapped forever. That's exactly what happened to Sung Hwan. He failed. And so, he was sealed, cast into a dimensional rift. Isolated in that dark eternity, the rulers reached out to him. They offered him power. They pleaded, stand against the monarchs. He had no other path. Even the monarch of shadows, though yet unborn, was among the threats he was ordered to destroy. With no means of returning home, Sung Hwan became their weapon, their messenger, their blade, and thus, he returned to Earth charged with halting a war beyond human comprehension. But, even with the ruler's strength behind him, he failed. He couldn't stop the monarchs. All he could do was watch from the shadows, knowing that the one vessel capable of containing Earth's annihilation had already been born, his son. The rulers, once bent on preventing the shadow monarch's full descent, began to change. The tide of conviction shifted. In the end, the greatest fragment of brilliant light whispered a new command: protect the monarch of shadows. Because only he, Sung Jinwoo, could stop the coming storm. The Dragon King's army would descend before the celestial soldiers arrived. And in that fleeting gap, Jinwoo was Earth's only hope. The gamble was colossal. Would Jinwoo side with the humans or with the monarchs? Now, at last, the answer was known. And so, beneath a snowy sky scorched with divine light, Father and son stood face to face. Father, Jinwoo says, his voice trembling. Did you hate me? A pause. Yes. Sometimes. Sunghwan's voice cracks. I'm sorry. You were always on my mind. Jinwoo stands motionless. I thought of you when I first became a hunter. Every time I nearly died. Every time I made it home to Mom and China. I hated you. But I missed you too. What about you? His voice is raw. Did you miss me? Did you miss us? A beat. Jinwoo flinches. Then his father's voice rises, resolute. Yes. Always. Not a moment went by that I didn't think of you, even though you couldn't see me. Watching you from afar brought me joy. Sunghwan stands shakily, the glow of his fading strength peeling off his body like ash. You become a fine young man. Tears well in Jinwoo's eyes. Was it the rulers? Were they the ones who used you and cast you aside? No, Sunghwan says, his voice firm. They gave me a choice. I chose to protect you. And that was the right thing to do. He reaches out, barely able to stand. I wish I could have talked to you more. Spent more time with you. I'm sorry I wasn't a better father to you. And with those words, the last fragments of Sunghwan's light scatter into the wind. Jinwoo remains standing. The world is quiet, but his fists clench. The sorrow boils into rage. From the rubble, he cries out, his voice echoing across the city. Far away, Jinwoo's mother, gazing at the snowfall, suddenly whispers, "Let's move out, Jaina." For some reason. I feel like it's finally okay to leave this house. Back amid the ruins, Jinwoo stood alone. Do you hear me, monarchs? You'll pay for what happened today. Do you hear me? And on that day, the day the monarch of shadows roared across heaven and earth, the true war began. Thomas Andre survived. Emergency crews rushed in to tend to the wounded. The beast that slaughtered hundreds had been reduced to ash. The battle was over for now. And then, the sky split once more. A colossal gate appeared, swirling with violet energy. The atmosphere trembled. In just a few days, disaster would strike again. Hunters from all over the world had gathered. Even Liu Jigang stared skyward in awe. So this is the colossal gate? Huh? It certainly lives up to the hype, another murmured. Even if we all attacked at once, we just get swallowed up. Thomas Andre stepped forward. It's about to begin. The tension thickened. Never before has this many hunters gathered in one place. One thought aloud. How many of us will survive? Jinwoo stepped out of the shadows. Hunter Cha Hyan, by his side, observed him. I've never seen you this nervous, Jinwoo. Really? He turned his gaze upward. The gate is about to open. Suddenly, light exploded outward. Prepare for battle, someone shouted. From within the swirling vortex, they emerged. An army. A monstrous, unstoppable army. Everyone tensed. Swords were drawn. Shields raised. It's an army. A massive one. Positions, everyone. Jinwoo's eyes widened. That's from the abyss. Beast roared. Colossal. Armored. Twisted. They surged forth like a tide of destruction. The true battle had begun. Chapter end here. For more, like and subscribe. Welcome to 217 Colic YT. The chapter begins. A crack of violet thunder splits the sky. From within the vortex of shadows, an immense figure emerges. Tall, ominous, armored in blackened obsidian laced with radiant purple veins. Surrounding him, countless winged soldiers descend like a divine storm. The Shadow Monarch's army has arrived. Standing at the helm is the towering figure of Grand Marshal Bellion, his body glowing with raw, otherworldly power. Lightning arcs around him as his wings unfold in terrifying grandeur. Beneath him, the ground trembles as the Shadow Army lands, dozens, then hundreds, then thousands deep. From the rear, a Korean hunter yells with all the desperation he can muster. Everyone, charge! His comrades, armored and armed, surge forward, their faces locked in terror, hope, and defiance. But the air shifts, suddenly tense, electric. A new command rings out. Nobody move. The battlefield freezes. A sharp tension snaps through the troops. Confused murmurs spread. What's going on? Why aren't we attacking? Stand down. Stop the attack, yells one of the hunter leaders. Confused, Wu Jinshul turns to Jinwoo, eyes wide. But why, Mr. Sung? Jinwoo's calm voice replies, Don't worry, Mr. Wu. And then, he steps forward. The Grand Marshal Bellion walks into the battlefield, utterly unbothered by the celestial storm above him. His every step echoes with confidence. The overwhelming presence of Belian and the endless shadow legions don't shake him. From the crowd, Mr. Choi stares at Jinwoo, bewildered. What on earth is he thinking? Is he really going to face that many beasts head-on without any support? The army of shadows looms. One step after another, Jinwoo walks right up to the one at the center of it all. Suddenly, a wind rushes past as Belian descends, his feet crashing into the ground with the force of a meteor. He kneels on one knee, placing his massive weapon into the earth. "Greetings, my king," Belian declares. "It is I, Grand Marshal Belian." With a grand sweep of his hand, Belian raises his voice. "And I present to you the army of shadows." A wave of darkness unfurls behind him. Tens of thousands of shadow soldiers stand ready, kneeling to their new master. The sight stuns the world. Hunters all around are speechless. What the hell is happening? From afar, even top hunters and world leaders are rattled. "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" "I think so." In disbelief, one murmurs, "A single one of those beasts could wipe out the human race. And there are 3 of them." Jinwoo gazes at the dark host before him. "So this is the real army of shadows, the army passed down to me by Ashbourne, the former shadow monarch." And now, standing alone before them, Sung Jinwoo lifts his eyes and speaks silently to himself. The real war starts now. A few days later, at the Korean Hunters Association, chaos reigns in the emergency response conference room. The foreign press wants a statement. The Bureau is demanding Mr. Sung's location. Can we allow citizens back into the city? Jimmy from Hunter's channel wants an interview. The officials argue in frustration. Sung Jinwoo's beasts just had to show up. When they did, one man reads a report aloud. Over 100,000 beasts emerged from the colossal gate, and Mr. Sung absorbed them into his army. Someone sighs. "We should get used to this. This isn't the first time he's disappeared." They gaze out the window, wondering aloud, where is Mr. Sung right now? The answer lies far from civilization. Jinwoo stands atop the massive claw of a beast, arms folded, surveying a training ground he's shaped. Below him, thousands of shadows move in formation. Beside him, Belian floats in silence. Jinwoo speaks, simulating a battle by dividing our forces into 2. "I've never trained like this before." He smirks. "It's not like they can die." Baru steps forward. "My king, I wish to be tested for the position of Grand Marshal." Jinwoo looks at him curiously. "Tested?" Belian nods. Suddenly, from below, another voice echoes, "Baru. As a commander, I would like to challenge Grand Marshal Belian to a duel." Jinwoo's eyes spark with interest. A battle between 2 commanders, huh? Across the field, the duel begins. Baru charges first, unleashing a monstrous roar. Belian raises his immense sword with one arm and meets the assault head-on. Blades clash with a deafening. Jinwoo observes quietly. Does Belian use a broadsword like Igris? No, it's even bigger. His specialty is strength, not speed. Baru blitzes through the battlefield, darting between strikes, landing quick hits. But Belian counters with overwhelming power. With one swing, he shakes the ground, slamming Baru down. Jinwoo watches closely. He rendered Baru's agility useless in an instant. His reflexes are way better than expected. And on top of that, a single blow from him could destroy the battlefield. No wonder he's Grand Marshal. But Jinwoo knows Baru won't go down that easily. After all, an insect's greatest strength is its tenacity. Baru strikes back with ferocity, clawing at Belian's chest. The duel rages on. But elsewhere, eyes begin to turn toward an even greater threat. Beijing International Airport. A massive storm begins forming above. Reporters swarm as hunters return from Korea. Lu Jigang walks calmly through the terminal. Cameras flash. "Mr. Lu, what do you have to say about helping Korea?" He scoffs. What kind of moron would question that? "If anyone says it's not our problem, tell them this. I, Lu Jigang, couldn't do what Sung Jinwoo did. That's why I went. If they've got a problem with it, they can go fight the beasts themselves." Suddenly, the wind shifts. His eyes widen. He looks up. No way. The clouds spiral above into a dark vortex. From the center of the chaos, an unfamiliar, malicious figure descends. A voice rasps through the storm. "So, the Shadow Monarch has turned against us." Red eyes glint in the darkness. "Very well. I'll deal with him myself." He steps forward. The monarch of destruction has arrived. Prepare for war, my soldiers. Massive dragons, eyes glowing, standing behind the king of dragon. The battlefield shuddered beneath the force of an earth-splitting crash. From the storm of dust and shattered rock, the shadow of a mighty warrior emerged, his eyes burning with violet fire, his sword dragging against the broken earth. It was Baru, the loyal shadow lieutenant of the Shadow Monarch. With a defiant roar, Baru slammed into the ground again, the momentum cracking stone as his armor gleamed like obsidian under lightning-lit skies. A titanic shadow loomed behind him, Belian, the former Grand Marshal, watching in silence. As the dust cleared, Baru, battered but unbowed, rose to one knee. He struggled to breathe, his body trembling. My king. I can still go on. Sung Jinwoo stood before him, silent yet commanding, flanked by the towering form of Belian. Why do you want the position of Grand Marshal so badly, Baru? Jinwoo asked, his voice even. Baru bowed his head low, voice cracked with devotion, because I wish to keep fighting by your side. Jinwoo's gaze softened. In that case, the Grand Marshal will stand on my right, and you will stand on my left. Baru's glowing eyes widened, overwhelmed. My king. A tear welled in the corners of his eye, but Jinwoo quietly said, Don't. Behind them, another shadow Igris approached. My king, I too would like a chance to. Jinwoo cut him off with a calm smirk. You can stand behind me. The tension eased, giving way to camaraderie among the shadows. Jinwoo glanced toward the horizon where a group of shadow soldiers was gathering. What are those guys doing over there? Far in the distance, a fiery pillar erupted into the sky, flames tearing through clouds like spears of wrath. A massive explosion thundered in the heavens, casting golden beams down to the earth. Jinwoo watched with mild curiosity, arms folded. His soldiers, unfazed, continued observing the performance. The creature responsible for the attack, Greed, grinned proudly beside the Orb of Avarice, his magical focus. Isn't using the Orb of Avarice cheating? Jinwoo muttered to himself. The soldiers, without missing a beat, had started constructing something: logs, stone, and framework arranged in a rough rectangular layout. What are they doing? Jinwoo asked again. Belian replied respectfully, It seems they're building a small house, so that you may rest comfortably during your stay here. Jinwoo raised a brow. Baru made them do it, didn't he? Belian didn't deny it. Then, a pause. My king, why haven't you called your soldiers back into the shadows? I want to give them a breather, Jinwoo said quietly. They've been trapped inside the dimensional rift for a while now. A solemn silence followed. Jinwoo turned to Belian. You'll no longer be able to see Ashbourne, the former Shadow Monarch. Doesn't that make you sad? Belian looked up at the sky. I stood by his side when he fought the rulers, and I willingly became his first soldier when he obtained the power of death. I was his aide for close to an eternity, and I never once doubted his judgment. Can you tell me more about you and Ashbourne? Jinwoo asked. Yes, my king, though it may be a very long story. It all began when I was still a fruit hanging on the world tree. A fruit? You were a fruit. All heavenly soldiers are born as fruits of the world tree. The tree is large enough to cover the entire sky with its branches. Jinwoo nodded, slowly taking in the vastness of the truth. I see. The next day, the peaceful moment didn't last. His mind turned to the looming threat. The 8 armies could arrive at any moment. I have to warn everyone that the real war is coming, but I can't promise that everyone will be safe, nor can I promise that the world will remain unchanged. A memory returned, Ashbourne's visions and the Dragon King's devastation. Everything before his army of destruction had turned to ash. Back in his apartment, a warm light glowed over a table filled with dishes. Tada! Jinwoo smiled, setting the last dish down. His mother and sister sat at the table, delighted. I had no idea Jinwoo could cook this well, his mother said. Try the side dish too. He got the seasoning just right, added his sister. Jinwoo smiled faintly as he turned back to the kitchen. The Dragon King's army would soon arrive. And Earth was next. Jinwoo, is something going on? His mother asked. What do you mean? You're cooking like your father used to, before going on dangerous missions. Jinwoo paused. It's not like that, Mom. Hold on. I think we have a visitor. He opened the door. An older man in a tan coat stood with security behind him. May I help you, sir? Jinwoo asked. Mr. Sung, I apologize for the sudden visit. Could you spare me a moment of your time? Later, the 2 men walked through a snowy park. Jinwoo listened as the man explained. At first, I thought I woke from my eternal slumber because I was special. But now, I think it was thanks to you. So why did you help me? The man asked. Jinwoo paused. Because you seem trustworthy. If you were someone who'd do anything to get what they want, I wouldn't have taken the risk of saving you. So you're saying it's because I didn't try to use Jinho? Yes. I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Sung. Please, allow me to repay you for at least a fraction of what you've done. Is there anything you want, by any chance? Jinwoo thought for a moment. No, not really. But, if something ever happens to me, could you look after my mother and sister? The man looked solemn. Is that really all you want? Yes. That alone is enough. You have my word. Elsewhere, a colossal gate loomed in the sky above Shanghai. In a dark room, a group of international representatives stared at the image. This is one of 8 colossal gates that have appeared simultaneously across the world, someone said. Mr. Sung, could these be? No. They're not part of my army, Jinwoo said calmly. They're our enemies. Do you trust me, Mr. Wu? Jinwoo asked. Yes, I do. Then I hope you'll believe what I'm about to show you. Jinwoo stepped forward, pressing a finger gently to the man's temple. In an instant, the flood of images hit, the memories of Ashbourne, the war, the monarchs, the destruction. The man gasped, eyes wide with terror and awe. Impossible. But how? He collapsed, overwhelmed by the truth. I always thought the gods gave us power to protect people. But the truth was stark. The hunters were not humanity's saviors. They were merely survivors of the true war. This wasn't about humans and monarchs. It was a war between monarchs and rulers. Jinwoo was choosing to fight it, alone. Do you plan on fighting them by yourself, Mr. Sung? Mr. Wu asked, voice shaking. Yes. Then how can I help? Soon, a global meeting was underway. Dozens of world leaders and elite hunters gathered in a grand ballroom. Has anyone else called to say they're coming? Mr. Wu asked. No, sir. The 152 countries I mentioned are all of them. The room murmured. The tension was palpable. I saw the army of berserk dragons and their leader. I don't know how Mr. Sung plans to fight such a force. Just then, a phone call. Hello, Mr. Sung. This is Wu Jinchul. I've gathered the representatives as you asked. When will you be arriving? I'm here. With a gust of black smoke and shadows, Jinwoo stepped through the portal into the ballroom. The crowd turned to him in stunned silence. Wu Jinchul exhaled. All hell will break loose once they learn the truth, but if you believe this is the right course of action. The screen faded to black. Then the world will learn the whole truth. Amid the hushed murmurs, one man exhales a breath filled with awe and fatigue. What a gathering, he mutters, adjusting himself in his seat. Before him sits a sea of influence. Presidents, prime ministers, guild masters, even the chairman of the Hunters Association. All are present, all united by a singular question. The weight in the room is unbearable. Everyone is here for one reason, to listen to Sung Jinwoo. Eyes fixate on the podium as Jinwoo steps forward under a spotlight. The mental pressure intensifies. Thoughts swirl. Everyone must be feeling the pressure now that Sung Jinwoo has taken the podium. A hopeful wish lingers in the air. It'd be great if he could tell everyone that all will end well, like last time. But that hope begins to wither as soon as he speaks. His voice cuts through the air like a blade. This will be a difficult time for all of us, he announces grimly. No comfort, no softening, just the truth. This isn't a fight that can be ignored by anyone. They'll appear before you and destroy everything in sight. The grim reality settles in. Unease spreads. A voice from the audience bursts out, incredulous. You really expect us to believe that? Surely the national-level hunters can stop them. Jinwoo's face remains unshaken, but the glow in his eyes intensifies. There will be hundreds of beasts stronger than Kamish, the dragon that brought the greatest disaster in the history of the world. Gasps ripple through the hall. So no, he continues. Not even the national-level hunters will be able to stop them. The disbelief becomes outrage. Show us some proof. We won't believe a thing until you do. Hundreds of beasts as strong as Kamish. You must be out of your mind. The entire room erupts with challenges and doubts. But Jinwoo raises one glowing hand, and the world around them changes. Rays. In a surge of dark mana, space splits open. Multiple gigantic vortexes, glowing, writhing gates, tear through the air, summoned by his will. The audience watches, slack-jawed, as countless gates swirl open above him. What? What is this? Those are gates. Sung Jinwoo can create gates, and not just one, but multiple at the same time. Jinwoo's voice echoes through the dazed silence. The enemy can create gates whenever and wherever they want. Just like me. It's just taking them longer because of the immense size of their army. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Panic brews beneath skepticism. Then, another accusation pierces the air. But Mr. Sung, how can we be sure you're not on their side? A man stands, pointing an accusing finger. How do we know you didn't summon the soldiers from the first gate in order to kill us? I mean, that's not to say you don't have my full trust, of course. The crowd's fear now mixes with suspicion. Jinwoo does not flinch. He listens calmly, then delivers a command with chilling precision. You should run away, he says, his expression resolute. Please, get as far away from the gates as you can. His words strike like thunder. A wave of dread washes over the crowd, then across the globe. Jinwoo's warning created a massive ripple effect. Cities tremble. People abandon everything. Run away, they say. Everyone scrambles, desperate to put distance between themselves and the ominous gates. In the final image of this sequence, a distant, isolated island stands surrounded by sea, a symbol of retreat, safety, or maybe isolation. A majestic fortress stood tall beneath a cold sky, its sharp spires and stone walls cutting through the air like fangs. Within its grand halls, the silence was pierced by a commanding voice. Get over here, Baru. Baru, the towering insectoid shadow, bowed instantly. My king. Jinwoo didn't smile. Put your head in the ground. With a loud wham, Baru dove into the earth without hesitation. You call this a small house? Never mind the size. Can this even be called a house? His tone was filled with pride, eyes admiring the towering fortress. I thought we should at least prepare this much for you, my king, Jinwoo sighed. And why the hell did you put up that flag? He looked up at the banner fluttering on the tallest spire, his expression caught between amusement and exasperation. Oh, so that was your idea, huh? He muttered as he turned to Bellion. Bellion, he asked curiously, what happens to an army that loses their monarch? Since you're the Grand Marshal, would you take over if I died? Bellion knelt, his tone grave. Our lives are in your hands, my king. If you were to pass, we too would return to nothingness. Jinwoo's eyes darkened. He thought to himself, the greatest strength of the Shadow Army is their loyalty, which makes them put their master's orders before their own lives. But their strengths and weaknesses are like two sides of the same coin. The enemy will definitely try to use that to their advantage. We won't stand a chance in an all-out war, my king. Surveying his army, Jinwoo asked, how many more troops do you think they'll have? I expect their numbers to be more than 100 times greater, Bellion responded. At least 10 million soldiers. Elsewhere, in a tense meeting room, a man scoffed. Bullshit, said Canadian S-rank Hunter J. Mills. That's what I'd say to Sung Jinwoo if I could call him up right now. The others remained silent. Even so, one replied. Mr. Sung is one of the strongest hunters in the world. I don't think we can just ignore his warning. Just because he's skilled doesn't mean we should believe everything that comes out of his mouth. J. Mill's expression hardened. Sung Jinwoo, no matter what sort of nonsense you try to scare us with, you won't get all the gates to yourself. You haven't scared me one bit. A beep echoed as a broadcast came on. The hunters in Canada have started rallying around J. Mills. In addition, some nations like India also seem to be preparing for their own raids. A voice turned toward Jinwoo. What are you going to do now, Mr. Sung? He replied coldly. For starters, I'm going to China. Jinwoo's inner monologue continued as he walked through the airport. It's impossible for me to face all 8 armies at once. I have to get rid of the closest threat to Korea first in order to protect my family. I'll deal with the other monarchs after that. The longer this war drags on, the higher our chances of winning will be. Stepping off the plane, Jinwoo was greeted by Lu Jigang himself. I was told that the government officials would greet me, but I wasn't expecting you. Lu Jigang smiled. I saw them making ridiculous placards, so I decided to come escort you myself. This way. A vortex swirled in the sky, visible even from the airport. So you can see it from here, Jinwoo muttered. Yes, Lu said grimly. That is the colossal gate that appeared recently. And these are, he gestured proudly. A massive army of elite Chinese hunters stood ready, 100,000 strong, armored and armed, ready for battle. 100,000 with this many hunters, we just might stand a chance, Jinwoo thought. They're all elite hunters, Lu added. Highly skilled. Jinwoo nodded slightly. Looks like things are about to begin. He stepped forward. Come forth. From the shadows, monstrous figures emerged. Massive armored beasts, knights, and reapers roared to life. The ground trembled. The Chinese hunters stood stunned. This is on a whole other level. Are they all your beasts, Mr. Sung? The spot to the king's left is mine. How dare you stand there? A furious Baruch shouted. Relax. He's on our side, Jinwoo replied calmly. Lu watched in awe. So you're able to communicate with them as well. Suddenly, a cry rang out. It's opening. The sky split. Light poured from the gate. Jinwoo stared up. And so it begins. Darkness loomed, but no enemy appeared. Strange, Belian murmured. I don't sense anyone's presence. What? Jinwoo asked. Could it be? The army waited. Still nothing. What about the other gates? Jinwoo demanded. Based on what I'm hearing from the other soldiers, the situation is the same everywhere else. Does that mean all of the gates are empty? Jinwoo frowned. Wait. I was wrong. I thought the monarchs split up their armies, but they must have sent all their forces to the gate furthest away from me. Far from China, in the heart of Canada, the colossal gate cracked open. A white-clad figure hunter J. Mills is standing. To think. Everyone's betting all their chips on Sung Jinwoo, a hunter murmured. News headlines flashed. Sung Jinwoo heads to China. Japan and Russia pledged support. 5 hours until dungeon break. Yet the people of Canada stood their ground. We will not give up on Canada. Our hunters will protect us. The gate shattered. Cracks of light split the sky. All right, J. Mills said. Here we go. The hunters stood ready, but nothing came. What the heck? Didn't Sung Jinwoo say beast would come pouring out of the gates? A single silhouette emerged. I only see one beast, Jay squinted. Wait. Isn't that just a human? What the hell? The red-haired man stepped forth, armor gleaming, his eyes scanning the crowd. He spoke. Are you the king of this place? He even speaks our language. Someone whispered. That's not surprising, another said. Beasts can make armor, use runes, form societies. They're just as intelligent as us. It's not strange they can learn to speak. J. Mills smirked. So beasts and humans can communicate now? Huh. I knew it. So this is how Jinwoo recruited the soldiers from the first gate. Jay stepped forward boldly. And what if I am the king? The red-haired monarch's gaze darkened. Looks like he's not here. Back in China? Is there no way to check what's going on in Canada? Just a moment, Mr. Sung, came the reply. Jinwoo's phone buzzed. Oh, that's right. I can contact Adam White from the Bureau of Hunters. Adam, Jinwoo asked, can you tell me what's happening with the colossal gate in Kana? Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. Wait, where are you right now? I'm near the Canadian gate with the other agents. We're here to provide backup. Why the hell are you over there? As a neighboring country, we couldn't just stand by. Many other agents were dispatched too. Damn it. They still don't understand what we're up against. Has anything happened at the gate? Jinwoo asked. No. It's empty. Things are quiet so far. Jinwoo exhaled. Thank goodness. Then hold on. Something just came out of the gate. Is that a human? A human just came out of the gate. Jinwoo froze. A human. Adam, run away. Get in a car. Do whatever it takes to get out of there. But it was already too late. The hunters, the top-level hunters standing at the front, have just turned into ashes. Jinwoo's voice cracked. Adam, you still have time to run. Get out of there, now. Explosions erupted. Dragons and beasts descended from the sky. The only thing I can do now is save Adam. If I can just control the shadow I planted on him. A massive red shadow gripped Adam. Mr. Sung, he gasped. We will be teleporting now. The king of dragons stepped forward. Where do you think you're going? Shadow. Adam turned in horror. Mr. Sung, From the sky, hellfire erupted. The king of dragon bared their teeth, their mouths wide as they exhaled torrents of flames. With a thunderous whoosh, the battlefield was engulfed. The chaos of war ignited like dry grass touched by flame. Jinwoo gritted his teeth, an exhausted growl escaping him. Ugh. His eyes glowed purple as he analyzed the battlefield. Damn it. I should have seen this coming, he muttered. Since my shadow army only grows stronger as time passes, they're trying to force the battle to end quickly by gathering all their forces into one place. He looked up at the ominous sky, where one gate, farther than all the others, now swelled with darkness. The monarchs opened all 8 gates, pretending everything was going to plan, Jinwoo realized. Then sent all their forces to the gate furthest from me. He stepped closer to the edge, staring out across the cityscape. If I go there now, it'll trigger an all-out war, he thought bitterly. My plan to buy time is ruined. I've messed up, big time. Mr. Sung, a trembling voice called out. Sir, Canada is. The words trailed off, the implications hanging heavy in the air. Jinwoo closed his eyes. Is there really nothing I can do? Elsewhere, a chilling voice reverberated. I can hear them, the monarch of destruction murmured, his crimson hair dancing in the heated air. The hearts of the living, pulsing in their screams. Beneath him, a red vortex churned with countless winged beasts, descending like a plague, the sound of their demise. It's music to my ears, he whispered with a cruel grin, raising his arms as his army spiraled above. He turned toward his horde. Looks like we're ready now. The command came, seething and dark, destroy everything in sight. That is our sole mission. The army screamed back in approval. Fire and chaos rained down on cities as buildings crumbled under explosions. Screens flashed the horror live while, in a distant office bathed in artificial light, a man stared blankly at the destruction. They're probably all dead by now, he murmured, surrounded by whiskey bottles. The hunters, the agents, even the reporters, all of them. There were hundreds of dragons, giants, beasts, insects. This isn't something humans can handle. He looked up toward the screen, his voice shaky. It's over. They're all dead. He fell back in his chair, defeated. It's only a matter of time before they cross into America too. No wonder Jinwoo told everyone to run, to go as far from the gates as they could. The world is done for. As he slumped into darkness, echoed in the room. Jinwoo stepped through the shadows like a ghost. Mr. Sung, the man gasped. Sorry for popping in like this, Jinwoo said calmly. But there's something I need, the runestone. The man blinked. Kamish runestone. He hesitated. But Mr. Sung, that's under the Federal Bureau's jurisdiction. But as his words trailed off, he clenched his jaw. What the hell am I saying? He thought. None of that matters now. He laughed bitterly, wiping his face. My apologies. Seems I haven't sobered up yet. Jinwoo remained still. I'm going to use it for a counterattack. Later, walking through a secure facility, the man asked, You said the rulers sent those beasts here. Then what exactly are these runestones we find in their corpses? They're gifts, he explained. The rulers created them to help humans fight the beasts. He held up a pulsating, black-red shard. When a beast dies, their abilities are sealed into a stone. The rulers want mana to be spread across this world, so they urge humans to fight. The runestones are the tools to help them do that. Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. There's only one way to find out if it'll work. But I have one more favor, he added, turning away. He arrived next at a regal hall, where Ms. Selner waited, eyes wide with surprise. I wasn't expecting a visitor at a time like this. She stared at him. You're not the same person I once knew. Before, the darkness was inside you, she said. But now, you are the darkness itself. I'm still the same, Jinwoo answered. Just, now I've become one with what you saw. His expression softened. You said you could see the future, right? May I ask you to look into mine? Very well, she nodded, reaching out. Their hands met. Her expression changed. Mr. Sung, she whispered, tears forming. Are you really going to shoulder everything alone? How can one person carry such a cruel burden? She cried. Are you planning to sacrifice yourself for the greater good? Jinwoo gave no answer. Just a calm smile. What a relief, he said instead. That means my plan will work. Selner's eyes widened. A relief? No one will remember you. It'll be a lonely battle. Jinwoo turned. Please excuse me. I've asked enough. His shadow swirled. Mr. Sung, she cried after him, but he was already gone. Standing high above the city now, atop a tall tower, Jinwoo looked out at the fading sunset. The wind gently ruffled his coat as he lifted his phone. He placed it to his ear. It's me. Across the world, a familiar voice answered, surprised. Jinwoo? Is that really you? Sorry I couldn't call. Been busy. No worries, Miss Cha smiled. We haven't seen each other in a while. Let's meet again soon. Sure, he replied. Let's do that. Jinwoo, promise me you'll come to see me. Jinwoo paused, then smiled gently. I promise. I'll come to see you, no matter what. As the call ended, Miss Cha turned. We should get going now. Oh, right. Her companion chimed in. Behind them, the greatest gathering of hunters from around the world stood ready. Veterans from Europe, Asia, Africa, and beyond had all assembled, united for one final stand. The Asian Hunter Alliance, the European Union, the African Guild Coalition, the narration marked them. Hundreds of thousands. All heading to the battlefield. And at the epicenter of destruction, standing atop a mountain of corpses, the monarch of destruction raised his arms again. "Here I am," he roared. A cataclysm exploded outward, energy rippling like a meteor strike. The blast raced across the world, reaching even the stars. Then a flash, and on that rooftop, Jinwoo stood, unmoving, watching the dawn. "Millions of your kind have already died." The monarch's voice echoed. "How much longer will you stay in hiding?" Jinwoo's violet eyes narrowed. "Don't worry. I'll be there soon." Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.